Okay. Hi, Ellen. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Douglas. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Doing well. Doing well.
I'm
Although
glad to be here. Thank you.
I am suffering from a bit of a head cold, but I'm going to do my best to try to hide it.
Okay, that's professional. Doctor Google, Doctor Health kicks in whenever you start to do the performance.
Oh, absolutely. The show must go on, as
Yeah,
they say. So I'm looking at your bio. Very interesting. Former BBC broadcaster.
living in America really for several years now, and having finished a couple of long-term contracts with the BBC, there came an opportunity to say, let's move to America, which we had talked about so many times. And so Miami Beach turned out to be the place that I felt most at home, and I really love it there. And obviously, spend my time between London and Miami Beach these days, which is when I'm not traveling. So it's Miami Beach, London, or the world.
okay, so you're not with the BBC any longer.
No, no, that show passed on, and so many other things came along and happened in the meantime, and one of those things being becoming a full-time writer, which I'd been previously in as a national newspaper journalist, and then became the broadcaster, and then went back to the writing aspect, which I really love.
Now it says that you have published 10 books. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's it started with a novel that meant, like many journalists, I'd had this novel kind of in my bottom drawer for years, and or I always said, "Oh, I'm going to write this book." And most of the time, most of my journalist friends never got around to it. But my husband passed away, and I decided, okay, this is now the time to really focus on something other than just what was immediately happening. And I started the first book, and that became a trilogy, and then there became two more standalone books, and another one of my world cruises. I did a book about that, which was a novel. So yes, the 10 is very much basically the novels, and then some non-fiction books in there as well, which have been great fun to write. So I'm just a natural writer. I write every day. That's what I do.
So, are the fiction books that you've written, are they travel related or not necessarily?
Well, they always end up being set somewhere, and usually wherever I'm living. So most of the books are set either in Spain, or where I was living for quite a while, or in Miami. One of the books, Flame Island, is actually set in Miami but starts off in New York. I think as writers, we're well blessed at being able to have this imagination and to say, well, when they say write what you know, I think it's more like write and observe on where you are, what you see happening, the people around you. And that's what I've learned to do. And I've kind of really basically had a book out every year. And that takes in my year, that kind of the research of the book, the writing of it, some promoting of it, and then I so often say that might be the last one. I don't know if there's another part of this book to go. Suddenly one day I'm sitting there, the idea comes, the muse is upon me, and I go, oh, I know, let's try this. And it just is. It's an absolute passion with me, the writing and getting my book out there, and storytelling. That's really what we do as journalists, and it's what we do as writers.
So, your latest book is about the Queen Mary too, and it's funny because just a couple of weeks before we received your email, I had watched a video on YouTube of a gentleman who had sort of travel vlogged his transatlantic crossing. Now, I didn't even know there was a Queen Mary 2.
Ah,
I stayed one night in the Queen Mary, the one that's buried in cement in Long Beach.
Oh, right, the hotel, the
Yeah,
original,
the
the
original Queen Mary.
legendary.
And
Yeah,
I had no idea there was a Queen Mary 2. I knew there was a QE 2.
right.
So is the Queen Mary 2 sort of the next generation of the QE 2? Or is the Q.
It is,
Yeah,
and there is also now a new Queen Elizabeth, and also a Queen Anne. So Cunard are kind of expanding their fleet all the time. But I wondered if maybe you had been on the QE2 or the Queen Mary, because so many Americans really love that transatlantic journey, the Southampton to New York again is legendary. And but we were all very excited when the original one, which is now 100 years old, went over to Long Beach and settled in to to being one of the biggest tourist attractions, I believe. And of course, the ship is just gorgeous. It's just it's a total out of this world experience. It takes quite a while to get grounded when you come back to real life, because as you know from having stayed on it, it's so opulent and well furnished, and the staff are so well trained. It's like being in a movie all the time.
well, it's definitely unique because it's a hotel, but it
Yeah,
was a grand ship, and it's also a sort of a museum,
right,
all
right,
in the same place, and you don't have to leave. You can just
right.
simply walk around and look at everything. I had a rather, I don't want to say a bad stay, but I had heard all sorts of rumors that there were ghosts and people had seen ghosts and it was haunted and all that. So I was sort of excited to, see the ghost of Edward and Mrs. Simpson walking on the upper
Right.
deck or something like that. And I got there early, and unfortunately, they were working on the heating system at the time I was there. So all I heard were people in the distance banging on the pipes, for hours at a time. And it sort
Oh,
of ruined my ghost experience because once I figured out that it was just workmen banging on the pipes,
right.
it sort of took away this idea that I was going to see any ghosts. But the room itself was fine, and like you said, the staff was very, very professional, very pleasant. But it also, it harkened back to the days of when transatlantic travel was really for the upper class and people wore black tie to dinner. And apparently on the Queen Mary 2, they still do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is always several proper gala nights where the men are have to wear tuxedos, or at the very least a dark suit, and you won't be allowed into the main fine dining restaurants if you're not properly attired. Most women on those evenings will wear long dresses, some even wearing ball gowns. Then there are many kind of event nights like masked balls. But I mean, those are the things that just make it so special, because now a lot of the cruise lines, they have changed the way they run things, and in an to broaden their base, of course, they have a lot of them have done away with formality on the ships, and I find that very, very sad, because I want to go there. I want to glam up. I want to live a life that I don't really live normally in these opulent surroundings. And everyone seems to rise to the occasion. There are a few men who complain about tuxedos and, oh, I don't want to get dressed up again. But generally, as I say, the women want to. And it is one of the big attractions. And I've always said, who wouldn't want to in that situation? I wrote one book which was called 7 Steps to Cruising Fabulous. And I said, why would people slop about in flip flops and t shirts when you can dress up and appear in this glorious movie and have your best life. It's something that is so different and is expensive. It's still going to be expensive for regular people to do those trips. The World Voyage, of course, is 103 days, but you can have all kinds of special occasions where people are celebrating anniversaries, and it's just the whole thing is, it's just like theatrical, which I love anyway because
Yes.
I've done so much theatre. I just don't, Hemingway said, why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary? So that's how I feel about things. Why would I want to live an ordinary life? And having done the World Voyage and then come back and relived it through doing the book, I say to myself, this is the best me. This is the best version. And I get to do so many exciting things. It's a transformative experience. It's a personal growth experience. And, I travel a lot on my own. And this solo women traveller is becoming more and more common. Whereas for many years, people would say, oh, I can't go there because I haven't got anyone to go with, or, my husband's passed away. We used to go together. And I say, if you haven't ever travelled on your own, you've missed a wonderful, wonderful experience to be on your own, to think on your own, to not be part of other people's agenda or dining times or moods. You just have so much freedom to know who you are and how you behave and what you like to do. And as a writer, I'm constantly, have a notebook or a laptop in my hand. I want to see things, I want to observe things, and not just through the lens of a camera or through a selfie somewhere, but really being there and talking to people and not being tied to, having to have the same dinner companions every night or all those kind of things, which people, are distracting sometimes. But at the same time, there is always the option to meet wonderful people on board. And, I urge you to go on the Queen Mary too. Do QM2 on the Transatlantic. That's a 7-day voyage, and that's ticks so many boxes on the bucket list, I must say.
Well, I definitely want to do it. I don't think I'm as ambitious as you are to do the around the world. You did an entire around the world on it?
Yeah, I did 103 days,
Oh my
and
goodness.
that was
Yeah.
that was Southampton to Southampton. I never, ever once, there was no day when I regretted it. There was no place which was not exciting enough to hold my attention. Whether I took a day and lay by the pool, which, happens sometimes, but we had over 30 different ports all over the world. And what am I going to do? I'm in Africa. I'm going to go on a safari. I'm in India. I'm going to visit the markets, the zoos. It's every day you wake up and there is a new experience to be had. And of course, on the ship, there are so many things to do as well. I even had a little go at some fencing, and Cunard do that on many of their ships. They also, on my ship, had the largest ballroom at sea. And that's one of my passions as well, dancing. So to be able to dance every day, eat fabulous food as if you were on MasterChef every day, and then get off the ship and go and see things, drive around in a tuk-tuk in Japan and, dress up as a little geisha girl. Who wouldn't want to do it? I can't imagine why people, I know people have, family and work and home commitments, but if you don't, treat yourself. It's a once in a lifetime experience, although I've done it 3 times.
We are absolutely out of time, but I did want to just ask you, the book is sort of a picture travel vlog of this 103-day voyage, yes?
Yes, I I took all the photographs, or most of them. I also had a lot of assistance from one of the professional photographers on board Cunard, whose job it was to take photographs. But mostly it's about me taking the photographs and literally just the storytelling, the narrative of every day and every place. And there is also a wonderful photographic gallery of a friend of mine and the tech guy who worked with me and is my co-partner. And he provided these wonderful art painting or drawings, photographs of the actual ship and the really artistic architectural work. Then we brought in other specialist people, like a guy who was drawing painting every single day of that 103-day voyage. There are so many people to meet and explore, and entertainers, and there's a crew are wonderful. The captains, captains cocktail parties, you meet all kinds of people. It's as I say, it is an experience not to be missed, and I wanted to have it in the book as a kind of legacy so that I may next year write another novel. But this book is me when my family and the kids want to know who was Auntie Ellen. Well, this is who she was. She traveled the world. She was confident. She was a lady who enjoyed meeting other people, being part of other cultures, and generally just living life to its fullest. I try never ever to say, I should have done that, I could have done that. I did it, and that's exactly how I feel good about myself and the best version of me. So the Ellen Jameson's World Voyage is my own legacy, and that best version that I want to live up to.
Okay. The book has been released, yes?
It was printed this week, actually, and we had hoped that copies would wing their way from London to America, but in fact, you know about production and printing processes. But so at some point this week, I will actually have a book in my hand. At the moment, what I have is digital versions of everything, and that, of course, has been a lot of work with all the editing that was involved, and Cunard have been very, very supportive.
Just the last question real quick. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yes, sure. It's www.theworldvoyageqm2.com. That's the World Voyage qm2.com.
Okay, great. I think we gave people a pretty good idea
talking to you, Douglas,
about the book, and best of luck with it.
Thank you so much.